Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. And my homage to our teacher, Pingwat Lokaswamin Hanse. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Dear meritorious devotees, moving on to the next great quality of our Buddha, the next quality is Anuttara Purisadhamma Sarati. Anuttaro Purisadhamma Sarati. That means it is possible for him to tame people. Now, usually, even nowadays, people use weapons to tame others. Sometimes they use money to tame others, power to tame others. And sometimes people use their knowledge to tame others. But in using these types of taming techniques, people are harassed. But the Buddha didn't use any weapon. And he didn't use money. He didn't even touch money. When he left home, he had no money or power. But there was no person in this world, there was no rival to him, even though he had no money, no power. There was no match to him. He was so powerful in his mind. He was so powerful in his mind. Now the Buddha, when he wanted to, anytime when he wanted to travel, he could travel through the air using his psychic powers. There were times that he used that power. He traveled through the air. And he could disappear from where he was and appear in another place. He had that capability even. And there were certain incidences where when people were, when the Buddha didn't want to associate with bad people, he just disappeared and appeared in another place. He didn't want to associate with bad people. So sometimes he used his psychic powers to escape from bad company. And it was possible for him to walk on water. And he could cross rivers in a split of a second using his psychic powers. And even when it comes to the story or the account of Angulimala, he used his psychic powers to tame Angulimala. Angulimala was running so fast, he was chasing the Buddha, but the Buddha was walking slowly. Even though how hard he tried, even though how hard Angulimala tried to catch the Buddha, it was not possible for him to catch the Buddha. The Buddha was just walking slowly. It was a miracle that he did, using his psychic powers. So we discussed about his psychic powers now. Now there are some other miracles that he had. One is called the miracle of Adesana. This means he could read minds. Now, once upon a time, the Buddha wanted to visit a monastery. Now, the head recluse in that monastery saw the Buddha at a distance, and he thought, oh no, the Buddha is coming in this way. If he comes, people will have a pleasant mind towards the Buddha, and I will lose everything I have. So that is the thing that he thought. The Buddha saw that. He read that the head recluse's mind, and he just turned to some other direction and he just walked away. In the evening, after he had his meal, in the evening he visited the same monastery. And at a distance, this head recluse saw the Buddha coming. And this head recluse said to the Buddha, "Oh, Bhante, I was waiting for you in the morning, and I was hoping to introduce you to my assembly. There were many people gathered here today. But why did you leave? Why didn't you come here?" the head recluse asked. The Buddha replied, saying, "How am I supposed to come? You thought that I should not come." And that head recluse was surprised. He was taken aback by the ability of the Buddha. So he could read minds. The next miracle he had is called Anusasana, the miracle of Anusasana. Here it means the miracle of miracle of preaching. It was possible for him to preach the Dhamma according to the person's knowledge, the listener's knowledge. And it could guide him towards enlightenment, attainmentships. He made people who were not virtuous, he made them virtuous. People who had no concentration at all, he made them people with concentration. That he did using his miracle of preaching. People who were so stubborn were tamed by his preaches, his words. So, since he was the incomparable tamer of both human beings and divine beings, he is called Anuttara Purisa Dhamma Sarati. So if we are to select a leader, this is another great quality that leader should possess. He should be able to tame people using his psychic powers, using his preachings, and his guidance. So, it is not only to humans that he preached his Dhamma, but to all all divine beings and Brahmas. And now there is a misconception among certain Buddhist communities that they believe it is not possible to understand the Dhamma while living in a divine world. This is not true. It is possible to understand the Dhamma as a divine being or a Brahma. Now, Satta means the great leader, the great leader who guides. That's what Satta means. Deva Manusana means all human beings and divine beings. Now, Brahmas, they fall into the category of Deva. So the Buddha is the leader who preaches his Dhamma, not just to the human beings, but to all divine beings out there. And because of this reason, because of these qualities, he's called Satta Deva Manusana. Now, we call him the Buddha, the Blessed One, is because he is capable of teaching the Dhamma that he understood to others as well. So he teaches the Four Noble Truths to others. The people who listen to that Dhamma, they understand it clearly. So the Buddha delivers the Dhamma in a precise manner. So because of this reason, he's called the Buddha. So Buddha didn't keep any secrets to him. He revealed the truth and he left it to his disciples to understand. So if someone has all these qualities in his life, then he is a blessed one. So that's why we call our Buddha the Blessed One. Bhagava is the name, Pali name for the Blessed One. Bhagava means he is blessed. He has all these qualities, great qualities. Now, we should not be Buddhists just because we are born into a Buddhist family. It is of no use. We should select a religion to our own benefit. Now, imagine there was a person who has good feet. His feet are working. They're working and there is no issue with the feet. It is possible for him to walk. But he's born into a generation or a family that has been practicing walking with clutches. They're walking with clutches. They're not even though they have feet. They keep their feet idle, so they don't move. Imagine that they don't move their feet, so they don't walk using their feet. Instead of using their feet, what they do is that they use clutches and they travel. So there is a generation like that. But people are born into that generation with good feet. Even though the person who is born to that family has good feet, he will be forced to use clutches. Because that is the knowledge or the practice that has been passed down from generation to generation. Now, he will carry on doing it just because he's inherited with that practice. we should not do so. Now, imagine a wise person comes to that person who is walking with clutches, and he says to that person, "Look, throw away those clutches. You have good feet, you can walk. Stand up and walk. Step by step, you will be able to." So, out of faith, he believes it. And what he does is that he throws away these clutches and starts walking with his own feet. So just like that, we should select a proper or we should select the correct religion. So we should not say we are born Buddhists. Instead of saying that, we should stop saying it, and we should examine Dhamma. We should study about the qualities of the Buddha, and then we should go for refuge to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. So, now, I told you, can you remember earlier on that we should have wise consideration when selecting a religion? Now, how many suttas are there in the Sutta Pitaka, or discourses of the Buddha? There are nearly 18,000 suttas in the Sutta Pitaka. By reading these suttas, it is possible for us to get a sound knowledge who the Buddha is, what kind of a teaching he taught. Then we can select him as our leader. Then we can select his doctrine, his teachings as our guidance. And we will be able to develop our lives by doing so. Nowadays, if we go and ask a person, what kind of a leadership do you like? He would say, I like, in my blood there's, I'm conservative, he would say. I'm a Republican, he would say. I'm a socialist, he would say. So he will go on saying about political leadership. So it is apparent from this that people are in the delusion now. When we ask people about leadership, the thing that comes into their mind is politics. So are these politicians, the question we should ask, are these politicians, are they free of all defilements? They're not. Can you remember the first quality of the Buddha, Arahant? That means he is free of hatred, lust, and delusion. But the politicians, they are not free of lust or desire, hatred, and delusion. They have these weaknesses. So we have these weaknesses, and the so-called leaders, the political leaders, they have the same weaknesses. So if we select them as our guidance, then we will be in deep trouble. In terms of next life and enlightenment. Now, here in Sri Lanka, there are many acts of demerit, and people, commit horrible things. It's not because It's not because of a fault in the Dhamma, this doctrine, but it is simply because people do not follow the Buddha's teachings. So we have to select a religion that would help us to cleanse ourselves and follow that religion. It is possible to do so if we select as our leader he who has cleansed his mind. So when we recollect the Buddha's teachings, we recollect a person without defilements. We do not recollect a person who helps arise anger in our mind. In that sense, our teacher, the Buddha, is a great person. When we recollect the qualities of the Buddha, we're recollecting a person who has done good acts of merit using his body, speech, and mind. Now, can you remember the example I gave you when we go on shopping? We go and select a low quality product, and when we come back home, we get the blaming. Husbands, they get the blaming by their wives, saying, "What have you bought? This is of low quality. You've been deceived. You've been fooled." The reason behind that is because we don't know how to select properly. So, even when it comes to food and beverage, wise consideration is an important factor. Now, if we get it wrong, if we select a wrong religion, at the end of our lives, we will be in deep trouble, because we will have led a life, a wrong life, in a wrong manner. And our next destination, our next birth, will be in a bad destination. Most probably it will be in hell or in the animal world. We would not be able to see heaven. So proper selection is important. Now, here in Sri Lanka, we see people go for refuge for astrology. They follow astrology a lot. This astrology is a doctrine of the Brahmins. It is not a Dhamma, a teaching that the Buddha taught. Without believing the Buddha's Dhamma teachings, what they do is that they go on finding refuge under these astrologies. This is not something that we should do as Buddhists. We have a great leader. What we should do is that we have to recollect. We have to learn the qualities of the Buddha and recollect the qualities of the Buddha. Would it be possible for a person who follow astrology, would it be possible for him to, see a development? It would not be possible, because the reason is that he he disgraced, he condemned the Buddha. So he disgraced the Buddha and selected another doctrine. So it would not be possible for him to develop whatever he's going to start. Actors and actresses, how do they keep their audience? They keep their fans. Their existence is dependent upon the pleasant mind of their fans. But that too is for a limited amount of time. Even actors fail in keeping their fans alive. So how is it possible for a religious leader to act and fool people and keep them under his force? It is not possible to do that. It is possible if his followers are so foolish. If the people are foolish, then for that religious leader, it is so easy to keep them under his control. But if the people are wise, if they are with wise consideration, if they have that ability of selecting properly, then it is not possible for that religious leader to fool these people. So just like that, if there are people with wise consideration, there is no chance for people with malicious ideas. So now it is apparent from these points, we should not have a happy mind, a pleasant mind, just by seeing the way a person walks, talks, and speaks. We should examine what he says, and we should try to understand the truth inside his speech. And then, if that is right, then it is okay to have a pleasant mind towards that person. So, if a religious leader speaks the truth, the ultimate truth, and if the person who hears that teachings, that doctrine, is wise, the person who hears that doctrine will go closer to that leader. That is not because he's been deceived by a melodrama, but because he got to know what the truth is. So, how did this happen? The leader spoke the truth. The person who was hearing had wise consideration. And the person who is hearing, the person who heard the Dhamma, the teachings or the doctrine, he got to know by his own wisdom that the leader is speaking the truth. That's why he selected. That's why he selects the real leadership. So we have come to the end of the sermon. So we hope by the points we have discussed here today, you will be able to consider wisely when it comes to selecting a religious leader. And by the merit we have gained here today, we wish you would attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana in this Gautama Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.